They've been called the forgotten generation, the Latchkey Kids, and the cynical middle child of history. Sandwiched between the massive ego of the baby boomers and the digital native energy of millennials, Generation X, born between 1965 and 1980, is often ignored in the headlines. But here's the thing. While the world was shouting, Gen X was watching. They developed a unique psychological blueprint defined by radical independence, a BS detector that's always on, and the level of resilience that today's world is only just starting to understand. Today, we're diving into the psychology of Gen X. Why are they the way they are, and what happens when the ignored generation is suddenly the one running the world? The Latchkey Blueprint. To understand Gen X, you have to understand how they grew up. This was the first generation where dual income households and rising divorce rates became the norm. The psychological result? Hyper independence. Gen X kids spent hours alone. They fixed their own snacks, did their own homework, and solved their own problems before their parents got home. Self-reliance. Unlike the helicopter parenting seen in later generations, Gen X had submarining parents. They were underwater and out of sight. The outcome. This created a do-it-yourself, DIY mindset. Psychologically, Gen Xers tend to be wary of authority and skeptical of the system because they learned early on that the only person they could truly count on was themselves. The whatever shield. Cynicism and skepticism. If Gen X had a national anthem, it would probably be something by Nirvana or Radiohead. There's a deep-seated cynicism in the Gen X psyche. Why? They grew up during the Cold War, the energy crisis, and the Watergate scandal. They saw the perfect institutions of their parents crumble. The defense mechanism. Irony. They used ironic detachment as a shield. The phrase whatever wasn't just a word, it was a psychological survival strategy. If you don't care too much, you can't be disappointed. Are you a Gen Xer, or do you work with one? Do you find that no-nonsense attitude helpful or a bit intimidating? Let me know in the comments. The bridge generation. Psychologically, Gen X is bilingual. They are the analog-digital bridge. They remember life before the internet, rotary phones, library card catalogs, and physical maps. But they were young enough to master the digital revolution. Cognitive flexibility. This gives them a unique psychological advantage. They have the deep focus of the analog world and the multitasking capability of the digital one. The pragmatists. While boomers are often seen as idealistic and millennials as purpose-driven, Gen Xers are pragmatists. They want to know, does it work? And how much does it cost? The sandwich pressure. Currently, Gen X is facing a unique psychological phenomenon known as the sandwich generation stress. They are simultaneously caring for aging boomer parents and supporting their own millennial or Gen Z children. The burden of responsibility. This has shifted their psychology from the slacker archetype of the 90s to the provider of the 2020s. Work-life balance. Gen X actually pioneered the concept of work-life balance. Because they saw their parents give everything to the company only to be laid off, Gen X views work as a means to an end, not an identity. So, is Gen X really forgotten? Maybe. But they're also the quiet glue holding the workplace and the family together. Their psychology is one of grit, skepticism, and the surprisingly dark sense of humor. They don't need your likes, and they certainly don't need your validation. They've been looking after themselves since 1972, and they're doing just fine. If you enjoyed this deep dive into generational psychology, hit that subscribe button. We're going to be breaking down the psychological profiles of every generation in our upcoming series.